So this week I discovered a pretty big problem with our milking parlour, and today we're going to try to figure out what the problem is and figure out what we're going to do about it. We put in our milking parlour almost 3 years ago now. It is a 40-40 doubled up, so that means there is 40 clusters and 40 milking spaces. The actual parlour, the pumps, the vacuum pumps, the bulk tank, all of that has always been perfect. It has given almost no problems in 3 years. However, there was something which has been confusing me for the last couple of months, and that is that our delivered feed is not matching how much the parlour thinks it's feeding. Now, this is an issue which has really been going on since this time last year. So it's basically been happening for a year and I have not been able to get to the bottom of it. So when I first noticed that the graph was not lining up, that we were feeding more in the parlour than we were in reality, the obvious thing to check is the feeder calibration. Now, these feeders use a little pot and it's like segmented into 4 pieces. If you imagine a pizza divided in 4, and each one of them pots, as it fills, it rotates and drops a set amount of meal. Now, the nice thing about that system is that you just have to calibrate your feeders every time you change meal, because all of the pots are the same size, so therefore you don't have to calibrate 40 feeders, you just have to calibrate a few and that should do the job. So that's what we've been doing. I have been making sure to calibrate my feeders every time I change a nut, and every time I check the calibration, it seemed to be spot on. However, because of the system used, I have never went and checked every single feeder. I've just calibrated 3 or 4 at random, checked they were all pretty much the same for the amount they were meant to feed, stuck that into the computer and continued on thinking that all of my feeders were working perfectly and that the problem with the graph was some way that I was calculating it, or I was entering information wrong or forgetting something, and that it would eventually fix itself. So then 2 things have happened recently which made me revisit the conclusion that these feeders were in fact feeding accurately. The first thing was that the issue did not resolve itself, and then the final sort of nail in the coffin, or the final straw which broke the camel's back, was one of the feeders, feeder number 3 on this side, started to throw an error. So all of this is to say that yesterday I went and I checked every single feeder in this milking parlour for how much meal it was actually feeding. And so after checking all 40 feeders, weighing how much they were feeding out versus how much they were meant to feed out, writing it down in this book, I finally have my answer as to why there was a difference between the amount the parlour thought we were feeding versus the amount that we were actually getting delivered to the farm. No fancy graphs for this part, but you can see all the feeders are meant to be feeding 1200. And they're all very, very close. And after I'd done the first 4, I was thinking, I still haven't found the problem. And then we get to feeder 5, and it's feeding just over a half feed. Feeder 6, half a feed. Feeder 7, just over half a feed. Feeder 8, just over half a feed. Feeder 13, just over half a feed. Feeder 16, half a feed. So that means on this side, we had 6 out of 20 that were not feeding properly. And if I can turn the page, I need a table. On the left side, we have a similar story. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, potentially 9, say 8 feeders not feeding the correct amount, feeding about half to 2/3 of what they should have. So whilst I was relieved that I finally figured out the problem, I was also a bit annoyed that I had known there was a problem now for over a year, including because my weigh cells on my meal bin told me there was a problem for over a year, but I just assumed I had made a mistake somewhere else and didn't think to check every single feeder. So all of that is a very long introduction to say that today's video is going to be about trying to figure out what is wrong with these feeders, trying to come up with a solution to make them feed the right amount of meal, and then we're also going to do a little bit of extra parlour maintenance when we're here. I have these gates to oil. There's a few of the nylon wheels for the sequential baling. You can just there A few of them need a little bit of oil, and this back gate down here is sticking, but we'll get to that once we do the first job, which is to change one of the motors from a broken feeder to a working feeder. We're going to swap the two motors around, and the problem should follow the motor. I'm 99.9% sure the problem will follow the motor, but the only way to find out is to try it, so let's change that motor over first. Okay, we're going to change number 5 with number 4. So it's this one and this one. Number 5 is the one we definitely know is broken. Hopefully this won't take that long, since I want to go for my lunch in half an hour. I could probably set you up here. Yeah, you'll get a much better view. That camera is just about sitting there. This is dodgy. If you fall, it's a very, very expensive day. This camera was like 600 and something pound. That's so dodgy. Ugh. Right, I'm taking you down. I can't risk it. Okay, you're now on a magnetic base, so you're not going anywhere. Right, Allen key. So I think I take this cog off first. How the heck do I get that cog off? To get to the Allen keys, I have to get the cog off. What? Oh, frick, piss off. Oh, balls. Right, okay, good. Okay, this should come out. This should come out. Why is it not coming out? I don't understand. Why is it not coming out? Oh, the flipping threads come way up. But then how do you get that out? How do I get that out? Understand? How the heck are you meant to get that out? What's it caught on? You want to pull that down. Oh. Okay, that was very easy actually. My bad. Oh, this video is going to be so embarrassing. Me sitting prying it, and all I had to do was just pull this down a little bit and pop off. Right, next thing is get these bolts out. So basically what's happening is, from my understanding, this could be definitely wrong, but there's a signal line, one of these cables, that goes back to say to the controller, which is over there, that this motor has turned this gear once. And one revolution of this gear is one portion. It is 1/4 of this big gear in here. And the signal to say that this has turned a full revolution is firing too early, perhaps, or something like that. And then it's trying to do a second revolution, but it's only moving like a centimeter. And then it's getting another signal to say, okay, we've completed the second revolution, when in fact it's only completed 1. So it's trying to do 2, but it's only ever doing 1. And it's something to do with that signal line going back. Very nice design, have to say. Now, we have our motor off. So you can see there's a little diagram on the motor. And to me, this explains it as white and orange are voltage to turn the motor. And then we have our return signal line is blue. And then our 2 switch lines are yellow and grey, I think. So I'm assuming that one of these provides a ground or a voltage, and then as the motor turns a revolution, it's flipping between the 2 sense lines or switch lines, and that's letting it know it completes a revolution. So this will be a really interesting little box to take, this little motor to take upstairs and have a look at another day, but for now I just need to swap these over and check that the motor, this unit, is actually the problem. This one has a sticker on it saying, do not get wet. Tell that to Red Tractor, who made us power hose all of this because they weren't satisfied that it was clean enough. I would love to blame them for breaking these, but the problem has been here for like a year, so I really don't think it was their fault. We can blame them anyway if you want, I'm okay with that. I do really appreciate a well-designed product, and despite the fact these are broken, like 14 out of 40 have broken after 3 years. Ignoring that fact, they're a really nice design and a really nicely designed feeder. And to be clear, I've had like no other issues basically in the rest of the Parlour. like nothing that has stopped us milking. Now, let's see if I can get this gear off easier than the last time. Still gonna pry it, I think. Get it started, and then bend this down. I'm an idiot sometimes. If things are difficult, you're doing it wrong. That is generally true in everything in life. Oh, it's so nice when things just come apart without a struggle. Right, that seems to be exactly the same as the other motor. Okay, good. Right, so this is our working motor. Let's put the broken one back in here and the working one into number 5. Do you want to check this one's working? I'm going to go up and turn on this feeder. I've changed the motors around. Will you take a look at it whenever I'm feeding it? Yeah. Take me 2 minutes to get this in. What did you change? I'm swapping motor 4 and 5. Tell me I've swapped 4 and 5, yeah. So then 5 should now work.
Aye.
And then that way we know it's the motor.
Yes. 5 was doing it wrong earlier.
Yeah, I've tested 5 3 times. So.
Well, I can get a wee bag here.
No, I just, well actually, you know what, do. And bring the scales in too, yeah.
But surely that motor's still beyond the warranty if it is a motor, wasn't it?
Good question.
Not that on that Parlor, like.
Very good
It's
question.
worth asking the question, am I fighting for it, like?
Yeah, especially if it's a known problem, it's a lot more likely.
Bound to be.
It'll be great that I can now answer the question of, does it pay to feed meal? Because I can, once I change the meal, it'll be, I would never have fed them that low other than by accident.
Yeah.
So this one should now work. Take this cover off again. And number 4 should be broke.
But sure, if you do number 5 first, right?
I'll do number 5
then
first.
I'll wait, and then we might as well do number 4, just.
Yeah.
And then we'll definitely know if it's the motor.
Yeah.
Because the old motor's now is number 4.
And the problem is, I have no way of knowing which ones are broke because they all feed.
Well, that's right, like.
You've no way of knowing.
No, because you stand down the party, listen.
They all seem to be
Everything
feeding.
gets a meal, aye.
Yeah.
Just not enough.
So this is the problem. Even if they offered me replacement motors,
So you need to do them all.
I have to do them all. Yeah. So that is the question answered. It is the motors that are causing the problem. Gia 100% know about the issue with these motors. They've changed the design. I'm going to try to convince them to replace all 40 motors because these feeders cost me like 40 grand 3 years ago. 3 years. Surely they're still under warranty and guarantee. I hope. There is some solutions. They could change it to a timed system where the motors are programmed to run for a certain amount of time and then shut off. It's in there for competitors' feeders that just rely on timing. And whilst that would work, it's not as accurate, it's not as good as this solution where it is delivering a portion each time. And if that timing system gets out of sync a little bit, it could end up on half a portion, feeding wrong. I don't know. I paid for this system for a reason. I did not go with a system a quarter of the price. So I feel like I should still get the benefit of that. Does that make sense? Final job before I go for lunch is to spray these clear plastic polycarbonate panels with some concentrated milkstone remover. I'll leave this on and then after lunch, I'll come back with the power hose and a more dilute version, hose them all down and clean them so you can actually see through them. This is one of them jobs that should probably be done every like 2 or 3 months, but I keep putting it off and it's probably been 6 or 7 months now since this side was done and this side here was not done the last time and it is way worse. It could be a year since I've done that side. So I'm going to spray this and then after lunch we'll get it washed and you'll see the difference. And just to give you a before and after, this is the before and I'll show you the after when we're finished. Hopefully by leaving that stuff on for 40 minutes, it doesn't just dry out and defeat the whole purpose of putting it on in the first place. But doesn't even want to find out. Anyway, I'm going for lunch. Right, I've got my power hose. Let's get these screens cleaned. final power hose, and I'll show you the finished results. So this was the bad side that hadn't been washed in like a year, and as you can see, it's actually see-through again. And then our good side, which was washed 6 months ago, something like that, again, you can actually see through it now. Now when this dries out, it will get a little bit more cloudy again, but whenever we start milking, we wet the whole parlour down and it will return to this sort of clear plastic again. It lasts for about 1 to 2 months, and then it starts to get cloudy, and if you leave it for 6 months, it's really hard to see through. So that job took me basically an hour start to finish. Probably should do it more often, but the tag readers don't really miss tags. You don't really need to see the numbers. So it's one of them jobs that's neglected. Right, so the final thing we have to do is oil these little gates and fix the back gate. I have no idea what I'm meant to use for these, but I'm just going to use some old vacuum pump oil. I don't even know if they need grease, but this seems to work. Keeps them spinning very freely. So none of these have got stuck since I started doing this every few months, so I'm assuming it's working. I will do the other side, and then that will be us for the routine parlour maintenance. Then I'm going to head upstairs, I'm going to fix the feeders on the computer. I'll not show you that bit, it's going to be pretty boring. And that should mean that our cows are once again being fed correctly. What that's going to mean is our feed rate will go from 0.29, which is what it currently is, to what it's supposed to be, which is 0.35. Now, this will be a good experiment as well, because does it pay to feed the extra meal? I will find out in about 2 weeks' time. I will be able to work out our margin over concentrate before feeding the extra meal and our margin over concentrate after feeding the extra meal. I am 98% sure that feeding the extra meal will pay for itself and then some, but there's only one way to find out. There's only one obvious way to finish this parlour maintenance video, and that is with showing you us milking the cows. I will set this camera up later. We will do a time lapse of us milking, and I will do a full in-depth detailed video on milking at some point in the future. But for now, enjoy the next 30, 40, 50 seconds of time lapse, and I will catch up with you next week. once again, thank you very much for taking your time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a little bit random, but it tends to be what I'm up to on a Wednesday or Thursday. That's kind of the routine that I've got into. If you do enjoy it, I appreciate a like or a subscribe, and I will absolutely reply to any questions or comments you might have. So until next week, thank you very much for watching.